know we are running a little bit behind schedule. So again, Amanda and Lindsay, thanks for joining us today. Amanda is the founder of Hive Naturals, which is the first and only female-founded merchandising agency for natural brands in Canada. She and her team represent natural brands in-store daily and are dedicated to making connections with retailers. Alongside her today is Lindsay, the Retail Merchandising Manager of Eastern Canada. Lindsay has been a part of many brands' journey to market domination, including Vega and Ancient Nutrition. I've personally worked with Lindsay very, very many years ago, and I can attest to her skills and talent. So I'm really excited to have you both here today, and I can't wait to learn a little bit from you both. So I'm going to pass it over to you first, Lindsay, because again, I'm not sure if we have Amanda up, so I'll pass it over to you, Lindsay, to introduce yourself properly and just tell us a little bit about your journey and how you got here.
Wonderful. Thanks, Lindsay. It's always nice to see you. So as Lindsay said, I'm Lindsay Blakeman. I am the Eastern Merchandising Manager with Hive, based out of Toronto. And I've been in our beautiful industry for over 18 years now. I started my journey in 2004, working at Whole Foods Market in Toronto. And that's really where my love of merchandising started and kind of blossomed, and that's where I probably had the most sort of biggest outlet for my creativity when it came to merchandising. And then really it was from there that I gravitated more towards the sales side of our industry, working with some of the great brands you mentioned, Vega and Ancient Nutrition. You and I had the pleasure of meeting and working together at Genuine Health, and you were my very first sales rep that took me on the road and kind of showed me the ropes. So it seems like literally another lifetime ago, but so yeah, and then, through those roles of, working as a territory sales rep or regional sales manager, I spent so much time in store, and really that's where I gained the appreciation for good quality in-store merchandising and brand representation at a store level. It really goes a long way, and we're going to talk a lot about that today. But that's sort of where my love lies, is being able to be in store and connecting with people on a daily basis to really grow brand love and awareness. And then Amanda and I met somehow through fate and have been working together ever since. And Amanda, I know we can't see you, but if you can introduce yourself. Can we hear Amanda?
I think she's not on the call yet. She's trying to join. Sorry, we're figuring this out.
That's okay. You know what? This is how we have to roll with it. I feel like, Lindsay, you have to roll with punches all day in store. So maybe we'll just keep the convo going.
Yeah,
until Amanda.
Yeah. So, yeah. And then Amanda, so Amanda and I worked together sort of on a sales side for some amazing companies and brands. And it was really sort of our passion for merchandising that Amanda grew into Hive as it is today. And yeah, I feel like your next question, Linz, will be, tell us about Hive and tell us about kind of a brief sort of what we do. And I don't know if Amanda isn't here, I would be more than happy to share that.
Yeah. Well, while we wait for Amanda, let's just dive into some of the merchandising activities that you do. So, how does Hive's activities in store? How does it really help both the brand and the retailer?
Yeah, so, we always like to say that we are an extension of our brand, but really we go in with sort of this merchandising mindset that we are an extension of the retail staff as well. So it really is sort of a balancing act between what is the most beneficial activity to execute for our brand partners, while also being really conscious of what works for our retail partners and, really adding value for our retail partners. So, we are very conscious from a retailer perspective of the current landscape and what everybody has been battling in sort of the last probably two and a half years when it comes to, short staff and labor shortages, sort of, unemployment situations and supply chain disruptions. and all of these sort of things, the ripple effects of all of those things at store level. So when we go in, we find we're really welcomed as an extension of staff to lend an extra hand, to do some of the things that, you know, these teams that are stretched very thin might not have the time to execute that day. So I would say, you know, our biggest impact for retailers is them being able to lean on us for our services. You know, we do a lot of restocking and inventory rotation, you know, price checking and price audits, building displays. So, you know, if there is a changeover planned or a reset planned, we lend our services to help with that. So we're really there to sort of lessen their workload and then also just bring some brightness to their day. You know, I think, you know, we really try to come in with the offer of, we're not here to create more work for you. We want you to have fun doing this because we have so much fun doing it. So and then we do, this is kind of a benefit for the brands too, and the retailer, a lot of sampling and a lot of brand education. So you know, during the pandemic, a lot of that kind of activity came to a screeching halt, but
Yeah.
there's nothing more fulfilling for both than being able to provide samples and a chance to try the products. And then really, I mean, for our brands, and this will kind of bleed into the services that we offer, but we are really there to do a lot of the work that, you know, is missing without store level representation. So we solve for a lot of issues like out of stocks through improved order frequency. We do a lot of planogram compliance and audits to make sure, you know, if something was removed during an out of stock period or faced over and a tag was removed, that item might not be there anymore for the foreseeable future. So we just make sure that that item is added back in. We do a lot of promo compliance. So, you know, as a brand, if you paid for an execution at retail and that wasn't executed, how can we fix that from, you know, as early on as possible to either save you money or, you know, capture that promo time frame that you were supposed to have visibility on. So
there's a lot going on when you're in store, for sure. That you're wearing many hats, and I can see why you guys are so valuable to, like you said, as an extension of the retailer as well, because there's a lot going on to really create that great in-store experience. And I think we have Amanda now. Let's see if we can hear her.
We do. Sorry, guys, technical difficulties, but I am here now.
Good thing we all have big screens and little screens. It looks like you're joining from our phone, so thank you for making it work.
So here I am.
So we were just diving into you know, who Hive is and the brand, but maybe quickly just introduce yourself, and then we'll get back to the art of merchandising.
Sure. So I am Amanda. I'm the founder of Hive. We are the first and only female founded merchandising company in Canada. Before Hive, my experience was with early stage startup companies, and my first being in olive oil in Vancouver in 2012. So throughout my career, I worked at food and bev and always seen the same pattern. You know, anybody we can get listed on the shelf and get on once, but can you get that second, third, fourth order? And that's where the real challenge lies. So, you know, lucky for me, my favorite part of the job was always being in store face to face. So I truly feel honored now to be able to do it daily and be in store merchandising.
Amazing. Well, I know since you have spent so much time in store, I'm just curious, what would be the top 3 tips that retailers to take away from this when they approach merchandising in store?
So I think like starting with cross promotion, it's a really great way for brand education. You know, when a company releases a new product, even if we know the brand, it's sometimes hard for consumers to understand what it is. But pairing it with something else makes it, you know, easy for the consumer visually to understand how to eat and consume. So a great example of that would be a shelf-stable smoothie. If you pair that on an end cap or throughout the store on a little display with a protein bar, it's healthy meals on the go. Or another example would be you put a non-alc beer, tortillas, and salsa together. Well, the three of those, it's so easy to understand, okay, this is a package. Also, what's great about cross promotion is consumers will usually buy in bulk. If they see the three products, they're going to pick up all three. So it's a way to increase sales. Another one that I would say is really important is forecasting. So, you do an end cap or you have a 2-for-1 deal in place, just making sure you're going to increase those orders before this happens. And we've had an amazing experience throughout this past year working with retailers to say, okay, we have a promotion coming up this month. Let's prep for that. So the worst thing that can happen is the retailer does this amazing job in promoting the promotion. We build this beautiful display. The promotion takes off, but the product sells out within 3 days. So just forecasting and pre-planning and getting those orders higher when a promotion is coming in place. And then the last one I would say, and it's not always possible, but anytime we can put marketing material, in a world where there's so much choice, it's very difficult for consumers to understand what they should pick. And sure, they could go with a brand that they always know, but they do want to try new products. So if we can put a shelf talker that explains the product, why it's different, why the price is possibly higher, or a channel strip with information about the brand on the shelf, it really makes a difference and makes it easier for that consumer to understand about the product.
Amazing. And Lindsay was just saying too, and kind of when you jumped on, how much you guys are really like taking stock of in store. And I'm just wondering, is there anything that seems really foundational to the art of merchandising that you see as a kind of a common mistake through all the stores you're going into?
Yeah, and rotation. When any new product goes onto the store floor, it's imperative that the bags that are currently sitting on the shelf are brought forward, and then the product that is coming onto the floor is put to the back. And what this will do will make people buy the product that's currently on the shelf and then eliminate expiration. So we always want that rotation to happen. And unfortunately, we don't see it enough. There's a lot of expired product on the shelf. So that one is key. And then just one other one I'll mention is it's back stock. So a lot of time the shelf will sit empty. The retailers are so busy, but it's just somebody going into the back room and checking is there any product in there. And then what this will do, it will eliminate double orders, eliminate product expiring the back, and then eliminate the shelf sitting empty.
Amazing. So as merchandising experts, what are the things that you're trying to achieve in every store visit when you go in? I think you probably touched on some of them already as the extension of the retailer, but what are the main goals as you go into store?
Yeah, so Hive uses an app called Repsly, and it has pre-populated questions. So on every visit, we're checking, is a product on shelf? And next, we're going to check, is the product expired or close to expiry? If it's expired, we'll take it off and we'll work with the retailer. But if it's close to expiry, we'll think of creative ways with the retailer to sell through the product. The main thing we're trying to do is eliminate them ever being left with stock that they can't sell through. And then we want to work with them to be sure that the product is the right spot of the store. So, we had an experience with Happy Planet recently where they released a breakfast drink and it went beside the cereal, but people didn't understand, and therefore it didn't sell through. So we moved it over to the supplements. Again, people didn't really understand, and it didn't take off until we put it with the orange juice and the breakfast drinks, and then they got it. It was refrigerated.
There you go.
So I think, sometimes we will look for permanent placement change, but more likely than not, we're going to do temporary placement change. And so test the product out for 2 weeks to a month and work with the retailers on tracking those sales. Then there's the obvious ones, like, as we know, single cans, cold as sold. So we're always trying to get that really sought after grab and go fridge space for any refrigerated beverages. And then checking for voids and gaps. Whenever possible, we want all of the brand SKUs to sit on shelf. So we'll always try to add more where we can. And then I think, two more are the promo calendars. When there's a promo, we want to try and get a display. And if there's a promo already in place and we've seen it, we want to ensure that it's executed. And then the last thing is just making that shelf beautiful. I mean, we live by that, 40% of the customers make their decision on their experience in store, and 57% will go to a competitor's if they have a better experience with that product. So that's not what we ever want to allow to happen.
So you did mention that like about shippers and displays, and I'm wondering how long should those sell through? Do you have any best practices? Like if you do bring in a display or a shipper, is there a set timeline that you're looking to track, or does it depend on the product? How do you guys gauge that if you do bring something like that in store?
We ask the retailers and they give us rules. So it's 2 weeks on a clip strip that needs, the bulk of it needs to be gone. 1 month for an end cap and 3 weeks on a shipper. And that's not every store, but it's the majority. And so we make sure we respect that, and we'll only ever put forward what we think, can move in that timeline.
And if you notice you're off track, what are you doing to get the sell-through back on track? Are you just employing some of those strategies you already talked about, or how do you make sure that you're hitting those KPIs?
Yeah, so we'll try and get a few placements around the store. And then we will also then, as we talk across promotion, let's say the product isn't moving, people don't understand it, or for whatever reason it's not moving. Pairing brands again, like you put a smaller brand with KPIs, well then, okay, they might just look at it a little differently and give it a chance. And so I think it's, sure, we want to promote the shipper and the display, but it may just require some movement. And then, as we talk about all the time, anytime we can add marketing material, we will, just to put that on to explain the product.
I know we're going to take some questions at the end, but I think I saw one pop in. Can you just say those KPIs again for the shippers and caps? What were the weeks that you're trying to hit?
Oh, sure. So 2 weeks for a clip strip, 4 weeks for an end cap, and 3 weeks for a shipper.
Amazing. So, like you said, the goal is really to sell through and leave, a retailer with no extra inventory. But what about out of stocks for the brand and the retailer? And how can you help make sure that we don't see those empty shelves? You kind of touched on it a little bit with forecasting, but how do you really mitigate against those out of stocks?
Lindsay, do you want to take that one?
I think you're on mute, Linz.
You're on mute.
Must have got muted somehow. So this one's unique because oftentimes it's within the retailer's hands, and then there's also outside elements that can influence it. So we're battling a lot of that right now, but I would say the number one question we always ask when looking at a brand of ours on shelf is, like, is this core product outselling its shelf space? And this is when, brands can provide data to us, and we can kind of look into that a little bit deeper to see, this sold out within the first day of being on sale, or it sells out within, the first 2 days of a regular delivery. There is not enough holding power on this shelf to warrant, its sales. So we'll work with the stores to either try to secure, additional facings for a product that sells out really fast. We try to get sort of an order cadence in place that kind of ensures like better delivery on high movement items. And then really it's that secondary placement throughout store that also acts as additional inventory space for these high moving products. So, we're very conscious of making our displays very beautiful, but they also serve another purpose in housing additional inventory. And one thing we do is make sure that the core set is always stocked, especially when on promotion, because that's where the majority of the sales are happening. You sell it on end cap, you sell it on displays, but do not ignore that sort of core set by refilling from all those various, overstock areas that you've created for yourself. So yeah, I would say that's probably, a couple of the best solutions for out of stocks outside of it being a a supply chain issue.
Yeah, which I'm sure everybody on this call has faced at some point
Oh,
in the past year or so. I'm just curious, you guys have both mentioned now a beautiful display, and I'm sure there's a bit of an art and a science to this, but what is the one thing that you think makes a beautiful display?
I would say, so for me, I heard this like so early on in my career that really the root meaning of retail is to retell. So there's a reason why displays flip over every 2 weeks or every month. You have to constantly be retelling a story to your consumer. And you have to make it impactful, but not overwhelming. So, there's this paradox of choice. If you have too many things on display, and by things, I mean multiple brands and multiple products, it becomes too complicated for the consumer who has sort of like 3 seconds to make a choice. So we make sure that it's very streamlined. As Amanda has spoke to, the cross merchandising or the co-promotion makes sense. And there's really no more than, 2 to 4 products on display. And then there's a lot of visual sort of art and design that goes into it, making sure that the color blocks make sense, making sure that brand blocks make sense, using vertical lines, not having multiple colors all over the place. There is a lot to kind of consider when it comes to shopper psychology. If something is cluttered, or even if there's too many people in an aisle and there's too many floor stands within that aisle, that can cause a consumer to decide not to go down that aisle. So yeah, we kind of are very thoughtful in our design, and we also have fun kind of trying unique and fun things as well.
Yeah, there's an element, like I said, the art and the science, the creativity, but humans look for patterns, right? You don't want it to be overwhelming and crazy. I don't know, Amanda, did you have anything to add to that?
No, I think Lindsay nailed it. That was perfect.
Yeah. And I love the retelling. That's a really good way to think about it. We are kind of looking for new news when we're just shopping around. So I love that saying.
I know Amanda spoke to the marketing materials as well. And, there's one tool that is called the romance card. And I feel like it's called a romance card for a really good reason. Like, you really are trying to romance your consumer into buying that product. And if that doesn't have the key elements, sort of your like biggest pitch in a very simplified way, you're going to lose them. So make sure they're not too wordy. Make sure they're very, visually appealing. They're not too large or bulky or, strange and sit weird on the shelf. So it's, we provide a lot of feedback. We provide the good and the bad to our brand partners, and it gives them the opportunity to take a lot of constructive feedback back to their next design or their strategy going forward.
Yeah, and just I'll just add to that, making sure that you're covering the notes that you want to hit. If you're local, tell that. If it's woman-owned and if the ingredients are organic, make sure that people know those key points. And okay, Lindsay said, don't have 15 points and try and think the consumer will read it. It won't happen, but three to five really strong points and with a visual as well, it's a game changer.
And that probably makes sense on the retail side too. Like as the retailer, if your customer really cares about local, creating displays that might have a few brands or, might tell that story again around those key points.
Absolutely. Like, people are proud of their local products and they want to support it. So yeah, definitely having a few in one display it's great always.
So I guess kind of in extension of that, like what can brands do to really encourage a sale and brand awareness in store?
So, I mean, I think I spoke to this earlier, but really provide your merchandising team with a healthy sample budget. So sampling is very powerful, and giving retail staff the opportunity to try what they're trying to sell gives them the opportunity to have a personal connection with the product, and they're more likely to sort of recommend or gravitate towards brands that they're familiar with and they have an experience with and a personal, love or passion for. So give the opportunity to try product, definitely put that into your budget, because that can go a long way in creating brand awareness and buzz and just general loyal consumers, over time. And then, that also gives brands an opportunity to, again, take that constructive feedback back to their next redesign or their repackaging, improving on product taste and texture. And then, we've been speaking to the effective brand materials, but those really are critical. Don't waste your money on things that retailers are not interested in. Ask your retailer partners, what they want to have available to them in store. And then, just making sure that how you are displayed on shelf makes sense. We connect with people from a category level, a brand level, and then down to the product and flavor level. So just get sort of narrow and specific versus like throwing everything on shelf and hoping one of those things sticks.
Yeah.
Amazing. So I think we just have a couple of questions left, and then we'll open it up to the group. I could see some questions coming in. So I'm going to ask Amanda, because I feel like, Lindsay, you've shared a lot of great information right now. Amanda, do you have any examples of ROI created for brands?
Yeah, I do. So I'll use Midday Scores for example. So we did an activation on Thrifties, and looking at 3 stores over 3 weeks or 6 weeks, we increased our sales by 200 to 400% in all of those stores. And then Happy Planet is another great example. They released morning oats, and our aim was to get them into the grab and go. And so in 8 weeks of, being their feet on the street, we increased our sales by 393%, which is massive. And I think another thing, not to just, it's ROI, sure, but to talk about promotion, a lot of companies pay for promotions that never happen. And it's right to Gelato, $20,000 in a chain, and it wasn't executed. NutriPop, $7,000, the promotion wasn't executed. And Hive caught that by being in the stores and being on the ground. So not only did they get a refund, they actually got the refund and they still got the display. So it's so great to see that, the money that they're paying is going to good use, and that our eyes and feet on the street are catching those.
Yeah, it's before you jumped on too, Lindsay was just commenting on all the things that are going on in the store, and yeah, everyone's stretched thin, and there's staff shortage issues, and everyone's hustling to make it happen. So things can fall through the cracks, and it's just great to have, like you said, an extension of the team to just make sure, just really focused and dedicated on that one thing to make sure things are happening, right? So.
Totally. And I think I went to a talk with Gail Tom from Horizon recently, and she spoke about a circle. And in the circle was the retailer, the broker, the distributor, and the merchandiser. And the distributor delivers and makes sure they have stock on hand. The broker is constantly going through listings throughout the year and doing the promotional calendars. The retailer is getting the stock on shelf, and then we're getting it off. And that's the winning combination. And for retailers, as we know, retail stores are grossly understaffed. Unemployment is, it's the highest it's ever been. And also pairing with that, CPG inflation is also at the highest point. Since last August, it's up by 12%, which is huge. So I think Hive's activities, by checking the expired product, adding the POP, making sure the shelf is stocked, it really helps the retailers that are run ragged. And then also with these rising costs, it just educates the consumers a little more on why they should still support these brands.
Amazing. Well, I think let's open it up to some questions. If everyone has a question, pop it in the chat. I think this one is a little bit tongue-in-cheek, but again, I think because people are stretched thin, do you have any strategies for dealing with any cranky department managers? And I think, Lindsay, you kind of touched on this before, just bringing the energy to the store. But yeah, how do you navigate some challenging in-store relationships, if you will?
I always try to make light of the situation. I definitely communicate from the minute they're staring at me. I'm here to make your life easier. I don't want to make it harder. So, if you're open to my help, let's work together today, And once they kind of see that you're there, not to ask them for something, but to give them something, they tend to relax and embrace it and just kind of, be on board for whatever you want to do. And we are not pushy in the sense that we can get the hint, like if we need to reschedule this or we need to come back, we will do that, to make sure that we're working appropriately in store with respect to the retailers and the retailers' time. So just creating that path of least resistance, I think, is key.
A question, and just in your expertise with non-alcoholic, like the non-alc category booming, where is the best place to showcase it in the store? Is it in the pop section, or is it with, like I think Amanda, you said with the cross promotion? Is it with chips and dip? Like where are you guys really seeing this take off? It's a relatively new category still, and got a lot of growth potential.
Totally. We found, and we have experience with it lots now over the past few months, you want to always get in the grab and go when you can. Get it cold like you buy your beer, right? And so if you can get it in that grab and go fridge, that's key. But then, the cross motion again, putting it on a display, on an end cap, even on a smaller display in the store with some chips, dip, just making it stand out from the shelf. Because if you put it in the pool of drinks, people don't understand, and they do mix it up. And so I think anytime you can pull it off shelf, it will make a big difference to sales.
I think that's one of the things I've taken away from you both, is really putting yourself in that consumer who hasn't done the product education that your team's done, who hasn't had that brand exposure maybe through other products. Like I think Lindsay said it, 3 seconds, right? So like really give yourself that like lens to think through and put it where it makes sense, or put it with other products that make sense. It's a good takeaway from this session. Okay, so I have a question, and bear with me, I'm going to read it from the chat. If you have a range of relative items and limited space, would you prioritize variety of SKUs within the brand, or color choices, 3 different water bottles versus 3 of the same in a different color? Does that question, that make sense?
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I think when you're designing an off-shelf display, keeping sort of that category level view small and narrow is important. So, if it's water bottles and something that complements water bottles, that's great. But, if you're then trying to sort of accommodate multiple products and multiple SKUs, your display ends up getting really cluttered. So first start there. And then once you've kind of got that strategy in place, say you're going with the water bottles with multiple colors, just color block appropriately and like in an attractive way. So definitely try to avoid, doing one color, then the next, then the next, then the next. Like try to have rows of one color, try to have colors that don't clash. And, there's likely the consumers pick the top 2 colors anyhow, so, or flavors. So just stick to, the ones that are the best sellers, the ones that are most visually appealing, and a product mix that makes sense together.
I have to add to that. It's like everybody always wants to get all of their flavors in, but like to Lindsay's point, focus on the top 2 to 3. Like, what are your best sellers? Put them in, and that will make the most revenue, not more SKUs. It's not what it's about. In multiple avenues here, less is more. Pick 50 retailers and focus on them and get the velocities going, not 500 retailers and getting 1 case a week. That's not the aim here. And the same with SKUs. Less is more. Get them flowing and then add slowly.
I think thinking about it as a story, for me, that's really like shifted how I would think about it. Like, what story are you trying to tell? The story of your best sellers, the story of maybe a scenario like a, like you said, a water bottle and something complimentary, like a day on the go, like telling that story and making sure that story is edited. That's like my takeaway. I think I love thinking about it like that now. So that's great. We have a question from Eva. What is your ideal client size? Does a brand need to be in a specific amount of stores to work with you?
Yeah, we'd say, no less than 50. And that's because we get build velocity for stores that you're already listed in. We don't get you into new stores. That's the broker or your sales rep's job. And so, yeah, to really see our ROI and to see those sales go up and the velocities build, having 50 or ideally 100, that's where you'll see us and see any merchandising company really shine.
And how do you optimize previously established or underused spaces?
Well, we're always going after those spaces. So any space that we see is empty or that's flex, we're going to put in products that will build a display. And, Lindsay, when we chatted before, you'd asked me, is it only Hive products? And the answer is no. Would we love the whole store to be Hive products? Sure. But in these spaces that we can build displays, as I touched on before, having a more well-known brand with sometimes a small brand will really help. And pairing them is fantastic when you have those spaces.
It sounds like this job not only requires a lot of organization, but a lot of creativity. So, just before we kind of sign off, where do you get your inspiration from?
Lindsay, do you want to ask?
A great question. I have always loved retail merchandising, and in particular, like really beautiful window displays. They've just, it's the ultimate when it comes to telling a story. And, often when you see them, they're monochromatic. They're not like a bunch of insane colors, mixed together. And you can immediately kind of understand what they're trying to communicate to you. So I love seeing sort of a display that immediately tells you like, oh, this is what you want me to do, or this is what you're trying to communicate to me. Just really in a beautiful way. So I am constantly looking at retail, displays, but also window displays, because that's like the ultimate, like, oh, it got you into the store. What a great, effective, merchandising tool. So
yeah, and just taking creativity from outside our industry, right? Like you said, just window shopping or, just seeing what's working in other areas. That's I love that.
I think when I go on vacation, the first place I go is the grocery store. Like I will immediately go to the local, the natural and conventional grocery stores, because there's nothing more fun than seeing what's happening in other markets too. And, we bring back inspiration from personal lives and professional lives. So.
Sure. Okay, well, I think we're almost at time, so I'll give like 2 more seconds to jot in any more questions, but I do want to thank you both so much for being here today and sharing insights into your world and to merchandising. Let's see if anything else comes in. If not, obviously you can always mention email the CHFA team. We're here to pass on the questions to Lindsay and Amanda. So again, thanks for joining us. Thanks for everyone for bearing with our technical difficulties. Amanda, Lindsay, thank you for bearing with the technical difficulties as we got you on the platform. Again, for anyone who's looking for a recording of this, just be sure to keep an eye on your inboxes tomorrow, as we will share the recording. And we really are, as an association, dedicated to sharing resources like this to really help to keep our community moving forward. If you want more business insights related to the world of natural, organic, and wellness, we really hope to see you at CHFA Now Vancouver, which, like I mentioned, is insane. It's only 5 weeks away till we're back together. And it takes place March 30th to April 2nd at the Vancouver Convention Centre. And to get exclusive data and insights or educational support for our industry all year round, the best place is to become a CHFA member. And you can learn more about that at our website, chfa.ca. Or like I said, just shoot the team an email. We'd love to hear from our community. And you can reach us at info@chfa.ca. And that is it from this team, I think. Again, thank you, ladies, for joining us today. Thank you, everyone, again, for just taking some time out of your afternoon. And I hope we see everyone in Vancouver together in a few short weeks.
Thank you so
Yes,
much.
we will have a booth at CHFA as well. So please stop by the Hive Naturals booth and chat, all things merchandising. And I think we have plans for some potential fun and games and prizes as well. So
who doesn't love
we're
a prize?
building a mini retail store. So who can build the best display and who can pin the clip strip. So it'll be a lot of fun at our booth. Definitely come over and say hi to us and have a chat.
Amazing. Well,
thank you,
everyone
everybody.
again.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Have a great
Thanks,
afternoon.
Lindsay. Bye.
Bye.